Ms. Zolikoff, are we ready on your end? Can you hear me? Ms. Zolikoffer?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can now.
Okay, all right.
So I have we're ready to share screen. Give another minute or so. And you just let me know when you are I think you can share screen from your end. So it's it's ready whenever. I'm gonna go ahead and open up and go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mr. Hardy, Director of Student Support Services. We have Ms. Donna Porch and Ms. Sledge and Ms. Zolikoffer here, the whole SSS team. We just want to say good afternoon and thank you for attending the academic advising with a focus on plagiarism session. So hopefully you'll get something out of it, something that you didn't already know. And Ms. Zolikoffer is going to be our lead today. So Ms. Zolikoffer, with that being said, you can take it away.
Okay. Can everyone see the screen?
No, I only see Ms. Sledge's picture.
What you think? We're gonna fix it.
Okay, it's okay. How you doing, Crystal? Ms. Barbary, Ms. Taylor, good afternoon. Right, I see it. There we go. Good afternoon, Crystal. I'm going to minimize my screen so it won't be in the way of the recording as you go through the presentation.
Oh, can everybody hear us, right, on this side?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay. All right. Thank you all for joining. One of the things that had come to my attention is the idea of plagiarism and how plagiarism plays a huge part in student success. And there were a couple of students that I noticed that got dinged by their professors and their instructors for plagiarism. So my thought was, why don't I do a workshop on plagiarism? Because if you get dinged for plagiarism and you turn around and get dinged again and again, that means you haven't learned exactly what plagiarism is and you don't know how to correct the problem. So I wanted to do a two-part workshop on plagiarism. So the title of this workshop is called, Did You Say That? The Plagiarism Workshop. Okay, so the topics that we're going to discuss today is as follows. Plagiarism, what is plagiarism? When is it plagiarism? How easy it is to plagiarize? Types of plagiarism, what happens when you plagiarize, and things you do not need to document. And I think this is where students really fall in the loop, in the ditch, because they're unsure what pieces of information they don't need to give credit to. Okay, so basically, what is plagiarism? According to Merriam-Webster dictionary, plagiarism is an act or an instance of plagiarizing or something that is plagiarized. It comes from the Latin plagiaris, kidnapper, plagiarius, I need to pronounce that word right, correctly, kidnapper, and has a history of kidnapping. So that's the reason why it's such a serious infraction, especially on the college level. So again, what is plagiarism? Plagiarism is presenting work or ideas from another source as your own with or without consent of the original author by incorporating it into your work without full acknowledgement, meaning that you need to acknowledge the person that you've borrowed the language from. What is plagiarism? Cambridge Dictionary says plagiarism is the process or practice of using another person's ideas or work and pretending that it is your own. So, do you plagiarize? Let's go just a little bit deeper. Are you sure you never plagiarize? And I say that because we used a lot of coined phrases. If you could think of anything that's a catchphrase that you use, do you actually give credit to it? So when I was thinking about this, just in particular, I thought about Forrest Gump. Everybody knows that movie. It came with a lot of different things that he accomplished. And it seemed by the end of the movie that he started a whole entire restaurant with gumbo and shrimp and this, that, and the other. He started a saying with the happy face because he wiped his face on somebody's t-shirt and it became a smiley face icon. And there were several different instances where he was given credit for starting something, but then if you go back into the whole entire history and making of that particular movie, you'll see that they gave credit to the people who actually started those things. When you think of different sayings that we always talk about, we'd be like, just do it. Girl, just do it. Well, where did that start out from? You didn't come up with it. You just decided to use it because it was a good catchphrase. So we do plagiarize plenty of times, and we just not aware of where we got that from or give credit to that person that originally stated that. So when you think about we're heading into Black History Month, you're going to hear plenty of people coin different phrases. I have a dream. Well, the first time I heard of I have a dream, I was a little girl. We actually had it on an album, which most of you folks don't know about an album, but we actually had it on an album and listened to the whole entire Martin Luther King speech. So he coined the phrase, but was he the first? So let's consider taking a look at this. Source work. Cases of a novel coronavirus were first reported in Wuhan, Hubei province, China in December 2019 and have since spread across the world. Epidemiological, oh Lord, that word was hard to spit out, studies have indicated human-to-human transmission in China and elsewhere. But let's take a look at the flip side. In this case of coronavirus, were first reported in Wuhan, Hubei province, China, in the month of December 2019, and have since spread over all the glove epidemiological studies have indicated man-to-man communicable in China and elsewhere. So how about this? I would say basically almost 95% of this work site from here to here was plagiarized. But it really doesn't look like it. So, okay, here we go. When is it plagiarism? Okay, there are instances when something is clearly intentional plagiarism, buying, selling, or borrowing a paper from someone. This includes copying a blog post or stealing an article from online, hiring someone to write your paper for you. And by the way, that's egregious offense. Copying a large section of text from a source without making it clear it comes from somewhere else through quotation marks or proper citation. Intentionally failing to cite someone else's work to claim that the ideas and words belong to you. It is possible to even plagiarize from yourself. So you're thinking about, how can I plagiarize from myself? If I said it and I made it, why is that a possibility? So in academia, if you repurpose a paper from a previous class or write one paper for two classes without the instructor's permission, you have committed plagiarism. So when is it plagiarism? Writers may also unintentionally plagiarize. This usually happens for a few common reasons. The writer doesn't fully understand the citation system they are using and ends up missing key elements of the source attribution. Attribution. Oh, Lord. Attribution. I know how to say that word. Okay, I must be hungry. All right, moving on. The writer thinks they are paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is restating a source's point in your own words or in their own words, and ends up accidentally directly quoting words or phrases without realizing. In this case, there is usually some attribution to the source, but not the right kind. Paraphrasing versus quoting. The writer misattributes a quote or an idea to the wrong source. This is especially common in larger research projects where the writer is dealing with a lot of source material. So let's take a look at some common types of plagiarism. Complete plagiarism is submitting another author's work in your own name. Source-based plagiarism, reference an incorrect or non-existent source. Direct plagiarism, copying text from another document word to word. Self or auto plagiarism, reuse a minor part of your own work without attribution. Paraphrasing plagiarism, make minor changes and or use others' writings. Mosaic plagiarism, interlay someone else's phrases or text within your own work. Accidental plagiarism, unintentional paraphrasing or copying due to neglect. inaccurate authorship instead of acknowledgement to contributors, and vice versa. So here we go. What happens if you plagiarize? Okay, students who unintentionally plagiarize often, but not always, have a meeting with their teacher, who usually goes over the issue with the student and explains how to avoid it in the future. Many teachers understand that citation practices are complex and can be difficult for beginners to learn, and therefore treat one instance of accidental plagiarism as a learning opportunity. So here it comes. When you commit the first offense, an instructor will consider it or may consider it, depending upon how serious the situation is, as a learning opportunity and consider it an accident. Let's go a little deeper. However, this is not always the case. Program or department policy may force teachers to begin disciplinary proceedings about plagiarism immediately. You should always be aware that this issue is serious and not to be brushed off or ignored. The best defense against disciplinary proceedings is knowledge. Fully understanding citation practices and employing them in your writing so that you don't plagiarize is always going to be your best option. You can find our extensive citation resources here. And here meaning Purdue our Purdue. Everything that you see is cited. Okay, so the corporate world and universities in particular have very strict guidelines for those accused of plagiarism. It is important to familiarize yourself with your university policy because the consequences can be very serious. Those consequences include the following: automatic failure of a paper, automatic failure of a class, a report to the dean of students. Some universities make it their policy for it to appear on your official transcripts, which are usually needed when applying for jobs or graduate school. Some programs will dismiss you. For example, the English department at your university may not tell you to apply to a different area of study. The university may dismiss you completely. In the corporate world, you may face litigation depending upon who your victim is. Your job may fire you in order to avoid the company associated with a plagiarist. Some of these consequences may seem a bit harsh or extreme, but they are meant to stop students from plagiarizing. Pay attention. This is a crime, and it is also an ethical dilemma. You're in school to learn and to produce original work. You are doing yourself a disservice by paying someone else to write your work or reuse an old paper. Okay, so here we go. When should I cite a source to avoid plagiarism? Here you go. Always give credit where credit is due. If the words that you are including in your research belong to someone else, give them credit for it. And here's a brief list of what needs to be credited or documented. Words or ideas presented in a magazine, book, newspaper, song, TV, movie, website, computer program, a letter, an advertisement, or any other medium. This includes podcasts, Twitter, and all those other things that are new to our society. Information you gain through interviewing or conversing with another person, face to face, over the phone, or in writing. When you copy exact words or a unique phrase, you need to show ownership. Who owns those words? When you reprint any diagrams, illustration, charts, pictures, or other visual material, you need to give ownership, show ownership. When you reuse or repost any digital media, including images, audio, video, or other media, you need to show ownership. Okay, so then if that's the case, wow, this just redone something here. Things you do not need to document or give credit. So it's important. This will help you focus on the difference between things you need to document and give credit, or things you don't need to document and give credit. So when you're writing your own lived experiences, your own observations and insights, your own thoughts and your own conclusions about a subject, you don't have to give credit because it's your own experiences or lived or observations or insights or thoughts. You don't need to document when you're writing up your own results obtained through lab or field experiments. You don't need documentation when you use your own artwork, digital photographs, videos, or audio, or etc. You don't need to give credit for that. Notice that these three things state when you're doing your own thing, through your own observation, through your own experiences, through your own learning, you don't have to document. Next, when you're using common knowledge, things like folklore, common sense observations, myths, urban legends, or historical events, but not historical documents. Notice it says, but not historical documents, because when you're using historical documents, they are already given to someone, made by somebody. You need to show credit for that. You don't need to document when you're using generally accepted facts, such as pollution is bad for the environment. That's a general accepted fact. You don't have to show documentation. Okay, you don't need documentation also when you're including facts that are accepted within a particular discourse or community. For instance, the field of composition studies or writing is a process. It is a generally accepted fact. So, here's my question to you. What do you think about AI, and why has AI become a problem for students writing papers? So we're going to take a look right here at this, and I hope I can get it right. Doggone it, I did not. I hope that I need your help. Everyone give me a minute while I get this up.
When the New York Public School District blocked access to the popular artificial intelligence tool ChatGPT earlier this month, it was the latest response to concerns over how rapidly changing technology is affecting our lives. Educators worry that students are using this technology to write papers and that they'll never have to learn how to write on their own. The tool wasn't even a month old when a college professor caught a student using it to write an essay for her philosophy class. Darren Hick of Furman University wrote about that on his Facebook page, and he's with us now for our periodic series, The AI Frontier. Professor Hick, what were the red flags? This was an essay for the record about Scottish philosopher David Hume and the paradox of horror. As you were reading this essay, what were the red flags that this might have been other than her own product?
There's several red flags that come up in any case of plagiarism. They just sort of build up until you have to screech the grating to a halt and look into the problem. In this case, it got some basic issues exactly right, other things fundamentally wrong. It talked about things that the student wouldn't have learned about in class, which is always something of a flag, and connected things together in a way that was just thoroughly wrong, but it was beautifully written. Well, beautifully for a college take-home exam anyway. So it was a weird collection of flags.
You say these, were they different from the red flags you'd get from, I don't know, what we'd call, I guess we'd call old-fashioned plagiarism?
Well, normally what happens when a student plagiarizes, there's a sort of cost-benefit analysis that goes on, but usually it's a panic, right? At the end of the semester, they realize they don't have enough time or enough knowledge to put this thing together properly, and so they cobble pieces together that don't really fit together. What was odd about this is there was some of that. There was things that they didn't understand, things that they did understand or seemed to understand, but it was just so well composed, which is not something you would see with an essay that's cobbled together at the last second. It was nicely written, sentence by sentence. It was nicely structured. It was just really odd.
And you actually used a ChatGPT product or part of this this tool to confirm the plagiarism.
That's right. There was a detector that was designed by the same lab that had created the GTP generator in the first place. And so I knew that this thing was around. So I thought, well, when I had these suspicions, let's plug it in and see what it has to say. At that point, I had never done anything with it. So this was new investigation for me.
What did you take away from this experience? What does this lead you to think about this technology, about the uses, the misuses of it? Do you have a policy about it in your class now? What do you walk away from this with?
I have a really ambivalent view on this. It's, on the one hand, it's fascinating. It's a great toy. I've been playing with it a lot. I can do all kinds of things with it. I had it write Christmas stories for me. It's just a lot of fun. On the other hand, it's terrifying. What's terrifying about it is that it's learning software. It's designed to get better. So when I caught the student using it, it was maybe 3 weeks old at that point, not even. And it was an infant, but a month from now, it's going to be better. A year from now, it's going to be better. 5 years from now, the genie's out of the bottle. So my worry is mostly about how do we keep up with this thing? How do we prepare for this thing? Plagiarism isn't anything new. I don't expect a new flood of plagiarists, but in that cost-benefit analysis that I was talking about, this changes the analysis for students. This is a tool that makes things easier, faster. And so my worry is that we'll get more students who are using this method, and we need to be prepared for that coming. So what I have to do in the classroom is change that analysis again.
How are you going about that? I mean, you talk about sort of having to, sort of keep up with this. How are you doing it in your classroom?
Well, I have to rethink every assignment that I give. You think about plagiarism every time you give an assignment anyway, so that's not new. You have to think of new methods, though. Currently in my syllabus, the newest change is I tell students if I catch a whiff of AI in their essays, I'm going to throw out their essay and give them an impromptu oral exam on the spot with the hope that that's enough to make them say, well, I better understand what I'm putting in that essay.
You say that there's it's a mixed bag, that there are some upsides to this tool. What are the upsides in your view?
I've seen a lot of people trying to think creatively about how to use this in the classroom. We can't ignore new technology. There's fun things to be had here. I think one of the best suggestions that I saw is somebody said, assign a prompt to your students, have your students put that into ChatGPT, see what essay it produces, and then write a new essay that analyzes that essay, says what it gets right, what it gets wrong. That's creative, that's interesting. That's getting a little bit ahead of the bar. Of course, I would ask what stops ChatGPT from analyzing its own essay?
That's a good point. You could have sort of a circular argument here.
You have to stick a step ahead if you can.
Yeah, but could you see using as a teaching tool?
Sure. I teach about the ethics of AI in my intro philosophy class. We're going to be poking around at this thing later this semester. So it's absolutely raising questions that are worth asking, but at the same time, it is a potentially dangerous tool.
Darren Hick of Furman University, thank you very much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, so I wanted to share a little bit about AI and how AI actually how AI can actually cause some issues. Instructors are very hip. They understand how AI thinks, most of them understand how AI thinks, how AI will write stuff. And I gotta tell you, that's plagiarism. And what you need to do is you need to rethink how you are presenting your work. It's very important. So I'm almost finished. In summary, can y'all come on and just say something that you learned that you didn't know, or anything that you want to learn more about?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. This is actually my first time ever knowing anything about the AI and the writing thing. This is my first time learning about that.
Okay, thank you, Miss Crystal. Thank you so much. Okay, is there anyone else that want to give an opinion? Miss Barbara, you can't unmute yourself? Let's see. It's definitely on your end. Is there anyone else that would like to share?
Excuse me, can I add something else too?
Sure, absolutely.
I feel like being that technology is like evolving in a sense, it's always something else new. They can sit there and take that away, but I feel like at the end of the day, they would actually create something else more advanced in a sense.
Okay, I understand that. I understand that. If you want to, I see that in the chat, there's some people that are out of the loop with AI. I can tell you, people are using GPT. When I say in order to express themselves differently or to express themselves grammatically correct, And teachers are picking up on the difference in the information that should be shared and the increase of knowledge that AI is sharing that is above the student's head. And so I just recently read something and I was like, what? And if I can tell you that I can pick out something, given the fact that there's a student in my class that wrote something that was far above their understanding and normal writing practices, I can pick up the difference. And so I did not grade that assignment. I simply emailed the student and said to them, listen, you have wrote a lot and please answer the questions. I will not be grading this assignment. And if I can pick it up, you know, the seasoned instructors, they know immediately. And it's a serious offense. Mrs. Porch, do you have anything to add?
I agree with everything you said. And then piggybacking a little bit with off of Crystal's comment, you know, some teachers, you know, being that I was an ELA teacher, like sometimes on the first day of class, we will tell the students to write a paper. And we will say something like, write about anything. And what we're doing is we're seeing their writing level right then and there. And then when we give them an assignment and they turn something far more advanced in, then we will know they plagiarized, kind of like what Ms. Zolikofer just said. And even conversing with your students, you can converse with a person and their conversation, it's different than how they write, because you writing is just conversing on a sheet of paper. So even though they might create more advanced technology, like you said, Crystal, you can't escape your own intelligence. And, you know, and as any professor, they'll be able to see right through it and say, hey, this isn't right. Because I believe also a lawyer submitted a paper through, he got the information off of the chat GPT and he got disbarred because chat GPT made up court cases. So even though chat might speak eloquently for you, all the information is never going to be correct. Never rely on someone else's knowledge. Always use your own and gather more to perfect yourself. Never just say, hey, I'm just going to cheat my way out in life, because then you're just cheating yourself. Great job, Ms. Zolikofer.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I have one comment that Ms. Barbara put in the chat, and she says, I feel like people use so much effort to cheat instead of doing the work. And you know, you are absolutely right. Cheating will get you over for a minute or a second, but I've known people who actually cheated themselves through college, where they had someone write their papers for them and they have an awesome GPA. But you know what? The problem comes in when they have to put in practice what they've learned. And you can cheat for a minute, but eventually you'll get caught in your own cheating, bizarre lies. People are aware. People are aware. So I want to thank you. If you have any other questions or any other comments, I want to thank you for joining us. And next, on the next session, I want to say part 2 will be on the 29th of February. Part 2 is going to cover APA format and how to write your papers so that your writing is improved. as much as possible. I really just wanted people to understand, at least during part one, what plagiarism is and basically how to go about knowing the difference between what you say, what you think, what you feel, and what someone else say, what they think and what they feel, and how you go about documenting. Now, the next session is going to talk about actual documenting from different sources so that you get it right. I want to make sure that it's a learning process and that you get it right. Or at least you can say, well, I heard it. You know, somebody told me this.
Yes, ma'am. Can I add something?
Sure.
I feel like it's not fair towards students that's actually trying to learn in a sense, because it's like it's okay to have trial and error, because with trial and error you actually learn from those things. And I feel like having it handed to you is not going to actually help you in the long run. And I feel like it's not gonna help you in the long run. It actually will show that you've been cheating your life.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. So, Ms. Sledge,
Yeah.
would you like to say something?
Can everybody hear me? Yes, no?
Can y'all hear Ms. Sledge?
Yes, I can. It's
Okay,
because
thank you.
it did something weird. So, as far as the plagiarism, thing, when you do your assignments, just use a little bit of common sense and academic honesty and ethics and integrity. And if you know you didn't say it, just pull the source. There's 1,001 ways you can get how to do APA, MLA, YouTube. You can Google it, how to properly cite. There's honestly no excuse at this point, with all the wealth of information and resources available, for anybody to just blatantly cheat and improperly cite things. Also, too, I do want to add that in the month of February as well, TRiO SSS will be having a workshop on ChatGPT and AI and what is it, explaining it, how did it come about, and how to use it properly as an academic resource instead of just using it to, blatantly cheat, as we saw in the YouTube video. So are there any additional questions, comments, concerns before we close out?
Typically, I have a insert. Typically when I do my discussions or anything of that nature, if I see if it's something like referring to what I read, I typically include what chapter I got it from and what page, and I put it in like parentheses.
That is exactly how you're supposed to do it. If it's a book, you always use the page number, article, journal article. If it's from a website and it's a credible source, like a news outlet like the New York Times, Washington Post, always properly cite. Also, too, like I said, it's so many resources out there to help you properly cite and format your sources so you won't be flagged for plagiarism. Like I know in Google Docs, when I've done certain assignments, they have the citation tool that you can use to plug in the book information, article information, website information, and use it, and it'll actually generate your sources for your references and your in-text citation. So it's really no excuse to, it's just as many resources out there to cheat, is just as many out there to help you
Get it right.
Get it right and properly cite, and you just use common sense and academic integrity, and just being honest with your work.
So also, when we meet the next time, I'm going to we're gonna be in the same room. I'm going to also have it virtual, but I'm gonna give handouts so that you will know how to look at things and to get it down. In addition, I wanted to tell you that a lot of instructors use Turnitin. So when you do an essay and you're using other sources for information, and you're using books, references, or whatever materials you're using, they have Turnitin, and there's a couple of other sources out there where they will scan your paper to that source, like Turnitin, and Turnitin will say, well, this paper is 80% plagiarized, and automatically you will not get a grade for that. I think they usually accept 4% or 5% plagiarism when it comes to those forms, and I'll make a list of that.
I just want to piggyback on Crystal. That was a great job that you cited that source. Always remember to include the author's last name. And when we do the next plagiarism class, which I'm very much excited about, it is a difference in citing APA and MLA format when it comes to even using your credible source and introducing them and how you actually write them into your paper. So it's very detail oriented when you're writing a paper, specifically in which format. Is it MLA format or APA format? Also, is the person that's calling from 0248, is that Melody Freeman?
Hello?
Yes.
I heard you call my name. I was in the middle of a
Okay.
conversation. I'm sorry.
I was just making sure it was you, Melody, because it's showing up as a phone number.
Yes, that's me.
All right, got you down. Thank you.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Melody. Okay, so I will be also when we meet again, giving you a list of sources that you can use to actually check your papers prior to turning them in, with different AI systems that can go through and tell you exactly what percentage of your papers are plagiarized or whatever. I think anything like 4%, 5% below or lower is acceptable. And usually it will come with your title. It will also come with your name and your cover page. And that's like, that'll automatically be 2% or 3%, simply because you have turned another paper in with the same documentation on your front page. So I hope that everyone has said what they wanted to say, that you have learned something, that you will join us again. I appreciate you, Mrs. Porch. I appreciate your help, Ms. Sledge. I am going to close out if there's nothing else that needs to be said. Hi, Mr. Hardy, would you like to comment before we close out?
Nope, you got it. I just wanted to say, sounds like what I heard, everything sounded like a great job. Appreciate all of the team members for assisting as needed, as I see on the chat, and you know, Ms. Sledge chiming in. Thank you to all of the attendees, and everybody have a great day.
Awesome. Have an awesome day, everyone. And I look forward to seeing you in February.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.